Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the amazing Freddy of Fred's Horror Corner. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing really well. It's the day before Thanksgiving. We're actually celebrating it today because I have to work tomorrow.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah.
I hope you have an amazing time today. I hope that you have an amazing time with your family. This is the most important time. Yeah, that's the most important thing about this time of the year is making sure to, let your family know that you love them and you're thankful for having them around still. You never know when that won't be able to happen. So,
no, especially with all the recent stuff that's just been going on and all the tragic stuff, it's more than ever. Let those people know that you love them and you think about them, because you really never know. You're going to the store one day and then you don't come back, for whatever reason.
My mom was 50 and just didn't wake up. We don't know what happened. So
yeah, my girlfriend's dad, was around 50 and cancer, but it just sucks.
Yeah, I'm sorry to your girlfriend's father. I'm sorry to her. I know this is a really hard time of year when you lose a parent. So send her our love. I hope she has an amazing day. I hope that you can make it perfect for her. Now, Freddie, before we start talking about the reason why we're here, I want the people that don't know you to get to know Freddie a little bit. Freddie was born in California, but moved out to Vegas when he was about 5. He wasn't into horror as much as a kid, which I think is absolutely amazing. As a teenager, he started to see the remakes like The Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but didn't really get hardcore into horror until he was about 22. And then he met his girlfriend. And years after that, he found director Adam Green. I see the Hatchet poster back there.
Yeah, exactly.
Super dope. And that really set you in motion. So when you were young, was it just like, was it like more of a fear of horror, or was it?
Yeah, dude, like I didn't mean to cut you off there, but yeah, I was, I was chicken shit. I just did not like to be scared. I hated that feeling. I would run down the halls and flip the lights because I just hate the dark. I was like that kid, dude. So
That's awesome,
horror
man.
movies were not my thing at all, dude.
Dude, I'm being completely honest with you right now. I'm 36 years old. I still fucking hate haunted houses, dude. Like I hate haunted house. I don't do it, man.
I feel you on that, man.
Haunted houses. Like
I think I've only been to like a total of maybe 3 altogether in my life.
It's really sad because Ashley, for those of you that know the channel, you know Ashley. We've been together 17 years, and she does like haunted houses. So I do have to spend my fair share amount of time in there, and I'm not happy about it. So like you talked about, watching the remakes like The Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw, and then meeting your girlfriend really pushed you into horror. So what made you decide to start Fred's Horror Corner? What do you do over at Fred's Horror Corner for the people that haven't seen you yet?
All right. For those that don't know, I just, ramble on about movies and stuff that I really enjoy, mostly horror movies. I was thinking about branching out, but I just basically give my, just opinions and thoughts about what I've recently watched, recommendations. Particularly, I started off with found footage movies. Sure. That was really what set me like on the YouTube path. And then after a while, I just kind of started branching out and started just generally covering horror.
Well, and what's amazing about this is social media can be a beautiful thing. And that's how you and I met, was through social media. And I checked out your channel and I really enjoyed it. And you guys can do the same thing because all of his social media accounts and his YouTube channel is down here in the description, guys. So make sure you're giving him a follow. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel. I don't bring people on here if I don't think they make good content. It's just not something I do. I'm a big fan of what Fred does over at Fred's Horror Corner, and I think that you guys will enjoy it too. So make sure you click these links down here in the description. And Freddie, before we get started on why you're here, will you please, the next time you see your girlfriend when you leave this room after our interview, tell her I said thank you so much for pushing you in the right direction towards horror.
Most definitely will. I love where I'm at right now with horror. Definitely, it's all definitely thanks to her.
Dude, and like I'm telling you right now, the tall man scared the piss out of me as a kid. Yeah. He was one of the scariest villains to me as a kid. So see that
I didn't see that as a kid though. See, that's the thing. So a lot of movies I didn't see as a kid, I would see them later on. But they were still like I would like picture myself, man. If I saw this as a kid, for sure would have just fuck that. Oh, sorry.
No, you're totally fine, man.
Okay.
If people can watch horror movies, they can hear you say fuck once or twice. I'm not too worried about that. Well, you know what? Like you said, in order for you to start Fred's Horror Corner, Freddie, and to be able to do a YouTube channel that's all horror based, horror had to start for you somewhere, my friend. So now I'd like to go back to the past for a wee little bit here. And I'd like to talk about how horror started for you, your first horror movie. And if you guys couldn't tell from the hint I just dropped, Freddie, your first horror movie was
Leprechaun 2, man. So random, I know. It is my first full-on, like, that I can recall, watching from like beginning to end was Leprechaun 2.
And it's funny because I'm not a fan of the Leprechaun franchise. I mean, like, I can't say I'm not a fan of the franchise. I think that there's a couple very good movies in there. I think the first one is dope. I think the very last one is the best one in the whole franchise.
Oh, that
Leprechaun
remake they came
Reborn,
out
I
with?
think it was. Yeah, the one that was a sci-fi exclusive. I think it's the best one in the whole franchise. But what I can say, even though I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the movies, and also Leprechaun in Space talks shit about Detroit, my hometown, kiss my ass, Leprechaun in Space. But what I will say is Leprechaun himself is a fun villain. When you're watching these movies, you always fall in love with Leprechaun because he's so funny and he has charisma, and you know what he does. In this movie, you got the I want me gold mobile.
Yeah.
The little go-kart
The little
driving
go-karts.
around, man. So, like, what's not to love about that? But
No, I agree.
Freddie, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen Leprechaun 2?
Yeah, it had to have been about 7 years old, man. Right around there.
And it's funny because at that time, like these movies, and Leprechaun 2 especially, it's still very violent, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But as a kid, this would be a movie I would think that would really ease you into horror because it's not overly scary.
Right.
Like it does have scary moments in it, but it does have moments of levity, obviously, where you're going to laugh when the Leprechaun's doing stuff. But he's still an evil, evil little bastard in this movie, man. So
no, I agree. A lot of the reason why I really just like the movies is because of Warwick Davis, man. I just think he goes so hard in that role. He just full on 150% gives it all, and I think that's the main reason why people tune in is to watch. Warwick Davis just, I want me gold, me shilling,
me shillings. I don't think anybody gives a fuck about any character in any Leprechaun movie aside from Mark Holton in the first one and the last one more than they do Leprechaun. Leprechaun is the reason we tune into these movies. Like with Scream, it's Ghostface, but it's also Nev Campbell, Sidney, So, Halloween, you have Michael Myers, but you also have Jamie Lee Curtis. You have Laurie Strode. Now, with Leprechaun, you're like, fuck it, give me Leppy. That's what I want.
It's just all about him, man. Him trying to get his damn gold.
Yeah, man. So, Freddie, do you remember who it was that you watched this movie with the first time?
Yeah, actually, it was with my sister. She was having a sleepover. She had a neighbor friend, and they just had me like watch this movie with them. And I mean, do I regret it? No, I don't regret it. But at the time, it was just terrifying, dude. I was young,
You couldn't chicken out in front of the girls, man.
No, exactly, exactly.
I get it, man. We've all bet. Anybody that has sisters around the same age group, you know what we're talking about right now. You can't get scared in front of the girls, man. So Leprechaun 2, like I said, it is a fun movie. I don't think it's a good or great movie by any stretch, but there are many, many enjoyable scenes in this movie. And do you remember which scene it was, Freddie, that affected you the most the first time you had seen it?
Yeah, I think it's fairly early on, but it's around the main guy has a girlfriend. They're having like some sort of like, the fight, and she ends up going out with some other kid, and he gets rejected. On his way home, he gets tricked by the Leprechaun, and there's a scene where he's in the garage, and the Leprechaun's using his trickery, and there's like two giant metal fans, and you don't see it, but it's left to your imagination. But when that happened, dude, I literally like ran out the living room, and then I got made fun of for that, and I ended up coming back right away. But for me, that was it, man. I just couldn't.
Because he thinks he's going for her breast.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to. I wasn't sure if I should go there, but yeah, he's getting tricked.
Totally but it's lawnmower blades, and he thinks he's going in for the breast. He's going for the motorboat. He wants to be a motorboating son of a bitch. But we all know what happens when you try to motorboat two lawnmower blades. It doesn't turn out very well.
No, exactly.
That's a kink I couldn't get into, but I agree with you. Obviously, and again, I'm not saying this to be perverse or anything like that, but when you're a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old boy and they're talking about boobies and seeing boobies on TV, you're drawn to it. And again, I'm not trying to be perverse or anything like that.
No,
that's just a fact of life. You're curious, that's, and to see that and then turn out to be lawnmower blades chopping a dude's face off, I'm like, I'm never going to look at movies again.
For me, 7 years old, I hate horror. That was it. That just set me off, and I just ran, man. It was terrifying. And then I rewatched this as an adult, and I'm just like, man, what is this movie? So silly.
Isn't it funny how that works, man? How our brains as children and how as adults, like, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, the way that a movie can affect you in different ways. Like I always go back to, let's say, The Exorcist. When I watched The Exorcist as a kid, I'm like, fuck that girl. She's a demon. Burn the house down. Get the
That's
fuck
it.
out of
Get
there.
out.
That's a wrap. As a father, I watched that movie and I'm like, what could I possibly do in this situation to save my little girl?
Right.
You know, and it's amazing how these movies could do that, even from a fear standpoint. You know, watching a guy try to motorboat a pair of lawnmower blades as a kid, we're terrified of this moment. This guy just got his fucking face cut off. But as adults, we're laughing our asses off. Like,
right.
because the guy was a douchebag. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
That guy was a complete douche.
Yeah,
So
he was
adults,
trying to come up on the girl and everything. And she even tells him, it's like, you know, I'm going out with that dude. It's like, I thought you guys had a fight.
Yeah, that guy was a total douchebag. So in his face, as an adult, you're like, shouldn't try to motorboat something that's not yours, buddy. And I don't mean that in a possessive way. I don't mean women belong to men. Please, that's not who I am. But you know, if you're dating somebody else, don't motorboat her. So we know what scene, Freddy, it was that affected you the most. But what would you say your favorite scene from Leprechaun 2 is?
I think one of my favorite scenes would be right when he has his resurgence and he comes out of the tree and there's like a bum there and the bum's drinking some sort of whiskey and he takes a swig of it and he's just like, she's like, the only whiskey is Irish whiskey, and he like tosses the bottle. That's just like seeing that as an adult. That's just like, oh, that's fucking awesome, man. Oh, sorry.
Right. And again, that's his personality coming through, because I think Leprechaun 2 is really, it's much like Child's Play. Like the first one, you get, it's mostly just an evil leprechaun. Like in Child's Play, it's mostly an evil doll. In Leprechaun 2, you really start to get the silliness mixed in with the serious. And then at 3, it just goes off the rails. But you're like, he takes a drink, he's like, what the fuck is this shit? This is nasty, man. So we talked about one kill already, Freddy, being the lawnmower motorboat. But would you say that was the kill that affected you the most, or your favorite kill from the film? Is there another one that comes to your mind when you think about this movie?
The lawnmower one was affected me like a lot. Another kill that I could also recall was when I think it's his like guardian grandfather, and he traps the leprechaun, and he gets really greedy, of course, and he tries to wish for his gold, and it ends up backfiring, and his stomach just starts to like get bigger, and all the gold just starts, it's in there, and he wants it out. So then he wishes for it to get out. So then Leppy just boom, just starts tearing through his stomach. So that I remember seeing that too, and just thinking that was just bizarre, like bizarre, more than scary, was like just bizarre, because I guess that was like my first body horror type of thing, because his stomach starts like expanding, and I was like, what is happening? This is so weird.
And again, be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I still gotta say, man, the barista kill when he does the hot steam on the face.
I was thinking about that too. I can't think of the actor's name, but I think he was the same guy in
Michael McDowell.
Yeah, there you go. I think he was Mad TV. I think that's him, but I'm not entirely sure.
Look what
right? Yeah. That's a funny kill. He's all mocking him and everything. Yeah. That's a good one at the little barista place.
That is what I was going to say about Leprechaun too. Like, while it may not be the greatest movie or, a cinematic masterpiece, I love the kills in this movie. Yeah. And we've just talked about 3, where the practical effects in these, and especially in the older films like this, maybe it doesn't hold up as well today. I'll give you that. Right. They don't look dynamite today, but I would rather a film use dated practical effects than dated CGI. And a lot of what they did in this film, I think it looks really good and it works for me. Yeah. So
I completely agree with you on that. Especially, I mean, they try to do like CGI with like 1999 movies, but some of them you can pull off. I don't know if you've seen Deep Rising, but that's like the monster. It's the CGI isn't the best, but when you know what I'm trying to get. Sometimes the CGI
absolutely. Well, I think as horror fans, and I can't speak for every horror fan. I can only speak for myself, but CGI to me is like salt and pepper, and practical effects is like mashed potatoes. You want mashed potatoes, but sometimes you just got to spice it up a little bit. So you use a little bit of salt and pepper on your mashed potatoes.
That's a good analogy, actually.
But, like that's, and again, like I want my main course to be the mashed potatoes. I'll put a little bit of seasoning on there, but it's got to be just because if I put too much seasoning, it's going to taste like shit. So that's why
that's a good analogy. I like that.
Thanks, buddy. Well, Freddie, we talked about your first horror movie, being Leprechaun 2, and what that movie means to you. But now my little buddy Ghostface is here, Freddie, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Freddie? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Okay, my favorite horror movie of all time. The Shining, ultimately. That is, if not my top favorite, it's just one that instantly comes to mind.
Well, The Shining, I think, is one of those movies that just transcends genre. It's brilliantly shot. The whole
Yes.
movie is
No,
unsettling from
yeah, just
beginning
that
to
opening
end.
shot, dude. Opening shot with the music, and it's like such like just ominous music, and you're like
Mhm.
doom 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 doom, and the camera's like zooming into the car and everything. It's beautiful, and I saw that as an adult. I didn't see that as a kid, so I did remember seeing. I think as a kid one time actually, because I remember seeing that pig scene where the guy he walks in and it's like that guy in the pig mask, and you're just like,
Yeah,
okay, what's going on there? And that always just like kind of weirdly stuck in my head.
dude, it's so funny because that movie is so, even to this day when you watch it, there's still things I pick up on in The Shining that I just think are so good. And I'm gonna be honest with you, as much as I love The Shining, I think Doctor Sleep is a better movie. Um, I think it's easily hands down my favorite sequel of all time.
Really?
Um,
Wow.
oh yeah, I think Doctor Sleep it
I
to The
was
Shining.
very surprised at how much I liked it because I was going in okay, they're gonna make the sequel to The Shining.
Mhm.
Well, let's see how it goes. And I remember my girlfriend and I watched it. I think a year after it came out or something. I slept on it for some reason, and then
Yeah.
I was mad about that. I was like, man, that was great. Holy hell, that was just the opening with Rose the Hat, and she has like that little girl, and it sets it all like the whole tone. And then you have like Danny, he's older and just a fucking miserable or drunk, almost just like his dad. Like it
Mhm.
was, yeah, it's yeah. The more I think about it, yeah, that's fantastic movie, dude.
I would love to see. Now, this is going to sound really weird. I would love to see a prequel and a sequel to Doctor Sleep. Now, hear me out. Yes, we've had The
Yeah.
Shining, but I would love to see a Rose the Hat backstory. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
because I think me and Ashley did we did a March Monster Madness with our favorite horror icons, and Rose the Hat made it to the finals for me. It was Rose the Hat
Wow.
versus Pinhead. Like I think that she
Dang.
is just like one of the most badass,
Yeah.
like, oh my god, so good. And you got the obvious homage to Frankenstein there at the beginning, when she sees the little girl down by the river,
Right. Oh,
and then
I didn't even think about that. That's
and how
interesting.
they're picking flowers, like,
Yeah, that's
and
interesting.
yeah, and then you get like, and I would love to see a sequel, like the continuation of the story with Abra, because yeah, this
Mm,
part of that sect is done, but they are not the only ones out there like that.
right.
They can't be. So see where how kind of how we seen what happened to Danny after The Shining. Let's see what happened to Abra after Doctor Sleep. I think her character is so amazing, and to see a young person of color take on such an important role in such an important movie. Mike Flanagan knew what he was doing when he cast that young lady in
Yeah.
that
No,
role,
I
and
agree. Yeah, she was great in that movie.
Mhm.
I agree with you. I would actually really like to see a prequel with like Rose and just like her like finding all the people that she's currently with. You know, the old dude or maybe him as a younger person or something. That'd actually be really interesting, bro.
Yeah, man. And another thing about that movie is if you've never seen The Shining, you could still understand Doctor Sleep. You don't
Yeah.
get many Shining references until the end of the movie when they get to
Yeah.
the Overlook. And again, when I heard they were making a sequel to The Shining, I was hesitant, like you. I was like, this is gonna be really, really hard to do. And I literally left the cinema, went out and got in my car with my wife. We went to Taco Bell and we went back after we ate and watched it again.
Oh wow, really?
We just talked about it the whole time we were at Taco Bell, and I was like, let's go watch it again. And she was like, really? I was like, let's do it. And we just went back and watched it again. And
Oh, that's awesome, man.
I've been obsessed with that movie for a long time, just because, in my opinion, that is, if you ever want to make a sequel and you want to know the best way to make a sequel, if I was teaching a college course on how to make a sequel, the three movies that I would show would be Doctor Sleep, Evil Dead 2, and Terminator 2. Those are the three movies that I would show. Like,
Yeah.
this is how you make a sequel that one ups your first one. And again, this isn't saying anything. And this is another argument I could have, and I could have an argument about this for days. The OG Terminator is a fucking slasher film. That is a total slasher film. He wears a mask to cover his identity. He goes through the phone book, killing every single Sarah Connor.
Yeah,
He
so
won't rest until she's dead. Like, total slasher film. Sarah's the final
I
girl in
agree
that
with
film.
you. I would consider it in the horror genre 100%.
Mhm.
Not so much probably Terminator 2, but I think the
Right.
first Terminator for sure. Man, I love
Yeah.
that first Terminator, man.
Oh, dude,
That's, yeah.
so good.
It's hard to
So,
pick. They're both great. And I always try to decide which one do I ultimately like more. And I don't know. It's it's really hard. Like I want to lean more towards the first one, but then you start thinking about the second one. Like, dude, the second one is just
well. See, and it's funny because like when someone asks me, "What do you prefer, Terminator or Terminator 2?" That's like asking me, "Do you want me to give you $100 with $100 bill or 520s?" I don't give a shit. It's awesome either way. I love both of these movies
awesome.
so much.
Oh, man.
If you want to give me $100, I don't give a shit how you give it to me because it's going to end up being $100, and I'm going to end up loving it no matter what. So yeah, I can't choose between Terminator and Terminator 2. Like I can't do it. They're both for different reasons. I think that like I said, the Terminator is a true horror slasher film with a great villain. Terminator 2 has the great arc of having 3 heroes to the one villain. The first movie I ever remember crying at, you know, like when he's going down on the thing and he's giving the
don't bring it up. I know. Yeah. I think that might be my first movie that I remember hardcore crying to. Just him saying goodbye, the chain, and him.
I know now why you cry, but it's something I could never do. It's so good.
Yeah,
so
dude.
Good.
That gets me. Even thinking about it now, I'm just like,
yes. Yeah, man. So, Freddie, I seriously, genuinely had an amazing time talking with you about how horror started for you and some of your favorite horror movies and horror experiences. But before I let you go, what we're going to do is we're going to bounce back to Leprechaun 2 real quick. And what we're going to do is rank this on a skull count. Now, here's the rub, Freddie. We're not ranking this movie on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. What we're doing here is ranking Leprechaun 2 on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Freddie, what would your ranking of Leprechaun 2 be?
If I'm trying to just picture that night and everything, I would probably give it a solid 4. Just
yeah.
I mean my schools are so much more like teens scared me a lot more than most other kids got scared of horror movies. I see people talk about how they grew up on horror, and that wasn't me. I would see a horror movie and I would just run, you know.
Right.
So those movies scared me just to an extreme point. Even though now they're so ridiculous to look back at.
But it's one of those things where if you would have loved horror at a young age, maybe you wouldn't be the guy you are now, man. I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. So
I didn't even think about that, to be honest.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Maybe you would have never met your girlfriend. Maybe you guys wouldn't have hit it off when you did. You know, so everything happens for a reason, man. And butterfly effect. You change one thing, you change many things. So, you know, we can't ever regret things we've done because it's made us the people we are now and who we're with now. So, I want to say this one last time before I let you guys go, because as you know, it's the end of the third act, guys. The credits are about to roll. The curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, all of Freddy's social media links and YouTube link is in the description. So make sure you're clicking, make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribing. Freddy, please don't go anywhere, my friend. I got a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.